Let's take a look at entering your labor into the software itself. Now this will be broken down into two different areas. There's first your field labor and then your office staff, the indirect labor. So we'll enter them both in the same area, but let's walk through them one at a time. Once we're ready to start, again, we'll click on basically labor. Under cost input, we're going to go into labor. And to add new employees, we'll simply choose the add labor section right over here. So I can simply come in there and choose add labor. It now gives me the ability to enter in an employee itself. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to simply enter in who that employee is. So in this particular case, it's John Smith. I'll tab down. The comments are purely for your reference. You can put anything in there that you want, but you don't have to. From there, I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Now you'll see this item right here. It's checked already. By default, it says this employee has direct labor hours. This is for the entry of your field team. Those guys who, when they're working in the field, I'm billing somebody an hour. So it's your direct labor employees. So by default, that's going to be checked. Just leave it there. Underneath that, your direct labor input. How do you pay this particular employee? Salary or hourly? This employee, I'm going to say, is a hourly employee. What's their hourly rate? I'm paying them $25 an hour. Right, we'll tab from there. Next, it's going to give you this input hours screen. And so I'm going to go to this next screen, and don't get nervous by it. There's a lot there, but we'll break it down a step at a time. So we start out on this one. There's several different columns of data that are here. Some of these are automatically calculated. Others are fields that you're going to enter in. So we're looking at 2024. Your screen, you probably see a lot more on your screen. I have this, the resolution of mine a little bit larger here, so it's easier to show up in this tutorial. So we can see each individual month that's here. You'll notice that it already says 5 weeks or 4 weeks. The software is calculating which months have 3 payrolls and which ones have 2. Because that's going to impact your cash flow. So it's already doing that already based on the setups that you had when you ran the new company setup wizard. It's going to assume that this employee is going to work 40 hours a week. So it's automatically calculating in 40 hours per week. So 40 hours times 5 weeks is 200 hours. 40 hours times 4 weeks is 160 hours. And it's going to put those numbers in all the way down the line on the report. You get the total hours, you'll see 2,120 hours here at the very bottom. The second column is overtime hours. Now, unless you work significant hours of overtime, I encourage you not to enter overtime in. And the reason for that is because if you put the overtime hours in, then the rates that we come up with at the end of this thing will be 100% dependent on you're always getting those overtime hours. If you don't get them, then your rate will have been too low. So that's why I encourage you, unless you work significant number of overtime hours, don't put any in. What that will do for you is that ultimately the rate that we come up with at the end of this means that you will cover 100% of your overhead expenses in a 40-hour work week. Then any additional hours that you end up having to pay actually become extra profitable because your fixed overhead expenses are already covered. So again, I can put that in, leave it out would be the preferred method. Total hours is going to be calculated. It's simply adding your overtime hours to your regular hours and putting that one in. The next couple of columns as we move over. First off, non-billable hours. So when your employee comes in, how many hours are they billing out over the course of that week? Now, a typical service technician will be 50% of their time will be billable, 50% will be lost. An install tech will be somewhere around 35% lost with the balance being billable. So what do they have for actual lost hours? So in this particular case, I'm going to say that we're 50%. Now, you can go in and literally key in each individual month 50%. Or when it comes to these columns here, you can just simply go down to the total and enter in the total for the year. So in my case, I'm saying this employee is 50% non-billable. He had a total of 2,120 hours. I'm saying that he's got 1,040 lost hours for the year. And when I hit enter, you will notice it will automatically, proportionally fill in the number of hours for the rest of the year. For example, when I get to, most of these you see are 80 hours, but when I get to a 5-week month here, it's automatically putting 100 hours into that given month. Next couple of columns, right, is next one is sick time. So if you have paid time off or sick time or personal PTO time, I'm going to enter that in here. Those are hours that you have to pay out that I can't bill somebody for. So in this particular case, this employee has 40 hours. I don't know when he's going to take them. I just know that odds are it'll be on a Monday or a Friday because that's when they all take sick time. Does he get paid vacation? If he does, I can put that in. Now, ideally, if you know when this particular employee typically takes paid vacation, put it in the months that he takes it. If you don't know when he's going to take it, simply put it in at the end. So in this case, I'm going to say that this individual has 80 hours of vacation time. Again, you can see it's proportionally adding it to each individual month throughout the course of the year. Next is holiday hours. Now, by default, the software will put in 8 hours for those common 8 months. My particular model, it didn't do that, so you'll simply put in what months do you have paid holidays that are there. So in my case, I have 8 hours in January for the first of the year. I've got May is Labor Day. We have another 8 hours. Whoops. Let me walk back to May. We're going to put in 8 hours there. We have July is the 4th of July. We have September for Labor Day. And we have November and December for Thanksgiving and December for Christmas. So we're going to, plug in my 8 hours in each of those. And so it's already tallying up. We got 48 hours. Now at this point, the software has pretty much calculated everything in terms of our hours. When I look at it, we have a grand total of 2,120 hours. And then by the time we get to the end of the year, for this technician, we're going to bill out 912 hours. By the time we factor in his lost hours, the windshield time, warranty works, callbacks, company meetings, runs the trips to the supply house, all the rest of that stuff, plus his holiday vacation and sick time, we're going to bill out a grand total of 912 hours for this employee. Once we have that all in, then I'll go ahead and click on Accept. And brings me back to this screen. It's now calculating in here what percentage of his time overall is going to be billable versus non-billable. And the last entry that I need to make is as I scroll down, it's going to list each of your departments. In my case, I have 2 departments, service and install. Where does this individual spend their time? And I'm saying in this particular case, he's spending he spends 75% of his time in the service department and 25% of his time in the installation department. That allocation percentage has to equal 100%. You'll notice if I don't have a full 100%, I don't even have the accept button available to me. So I'll go ahead and click on that as 25%. When I have everything entered in, I can click on accept. This particular employee will now be added to my employee list. Now, when you were entering in their lost hours, if you weren't sure how many hours they were lost, that were actually lost versus billable, we've got right up here next to the Add Labor button, we've got this a hyperlink for lost hours. That will actually take you out to a separate little calculator that will help you calculate how many hours an employee has that's lost based on their revenue and material sales over the course of last year. If you're not tracking it, this can get out of hand very quickly. And so that little tool, that calculator, will help you figure that piece of the puzzle out. Now, that's our direct labor employees. Our indirect labor employees are going to be entered in the same place. So let's say I've got an office person who's working my CSR rep. I'm simply going to click on Add Hours here again. When I click on that, the same screen opens up. Now, the difference is, first off, I'm going to go ahead and put in their name. All right, put that in. And again, comments are purely for your reference. Now here's where we start to change. Instead of this side here where it says this employee has direct labor hours, I'm going to take the check mark out of that box, and instead I'm going to put it in the other side. On the right-hand side, it says this employee has indirect labor hours. So this, again, would be anybody working in the office. This would be your comfort consultants or salespeople if they're paid with 100% commission. This would be the owner of the company. Everything else would go on the right-hand side. And so when I check that box, it will open up the entry screen for my indirect labor and employees. So here again, how do we pay this employee? Is it hourly or salary? I'm going to say this individual is paid salary, and we're paying $50,000 per year. Plug that one in. Now, we do have this box here that says allocate amounts. You do not have to go in there. The only reason that's there is, let's say you actually pay a bonus at the end of the year. You could actually come into here and literally choose that. It's going to show you how it's spreading the hours per individual month, and you could now come in here and enter in a bonus, say in December. It'll factor that into their total wages and also factor it into your cash flow. Again, you don't have to go into the total allocate amounts for the indirect team. Here again, then I simply allocate this individual to the individual departments. And so this employee is, they're my CSR rep, they are 100% there to support my service department. Once again, once I've got 100% allocated, then I can click on accept, and that particular employee will be entered to my employee list. That's it. Do that for each individual employee. The one question that does come up is if I have salespeople who are paid on commission. You know roughly what you paid them last year in total commission. Just enter that in as indirect labor and salary and put in the total amount as their total commissions that you would expect them to make again this year, and put that in as a salary. We'll make sure that your pricing is priced high enough to cover not only the cost of the job, but also pay that commission as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Grandy & Associates.